Hello and welcome to the Never Miss a Monday podcast. I'm your host, Stacey Garcia. In this powerful and deeply personal episode of Never Miss a Monday, we are honoring Breast Cancer Awareness Month by bringing back two beautiful, empowering breasties of mine, Samantha Harris and Elissa Kalver. Samantha Harris is an Emmy-winning TV host, certified health coach, author, and podcast host of Your Healthiest Healthy, and two-time breast cancer survivor. Samantha turned her journey into a mission to uplift, empower, and equip others to take control of their health. Elissa Kalver, at 34, Miss Elissa was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer just before her daughter's first birthday. Refusing to simply endure the fight, she turned her battle into action. In the midst of her 5th round of chemo, she launched WeGotThis.org, the world's first nonprofit cancer gift registry, designed to provide tangible support for those facing cancer. She's most recently published her first book, We Got This: How I Learned to Thrive with Terminal Cancer, and started her own podcast, Live Like It Matters. And I have both of your books being showcased today, ladies,
I
because
love
they're
it.
favors of mine. Welcome to the show, ladies. How are you both doing?
Great.
Great. Thanks for having us again. This is so fun, the three of us together.
I know, I'm excited. So for those of you that would like a deep dive into Elissa and Samantha's stories, their personal stories, they were both guests individually. Elissa is episode 16 and Samantha's episode 23. So definitely go back and take a listen. But today we're really going to focus on the importance of early detection, self-advocacy, mental health, the challenges we have faced and are still facing, and how crucial breast cancer research is, especially today, and how we have found purpose in each of our journeys. You guys ready to get started?
Get started. What they don't know, because they're just tuning in now that we officially hit the record button, is that we've been talking nonstop, jabbering for the last 20 minutes because we have the best time hanging out. So
Yeah, the second we see each other's faces, we just dive into everything. So I'm glad now we're documenting it. But what a day. We were saying earlier, I know Stacey, you mentioned we were going to record earlier, and it was definitely meant to happen that we pushed to October 1st. Today's so many things. So I'm excited to unpack it with you both.
Absolutely. It is so many things. And I want to honor that because, and I saw something on Instagram that I reposted, and it really resonated with me because October, and we're all wearing our pink, right? You know, we are we are thrivers in this journey. But there's so many different emotions that come with Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We each have a different story. But at the same time, we've all gone through and are going through major challenges, major victories, and community support. There's so much to it. And so there's a rainbow of emotions that come with breast cancer awareness. So let's kind of go back to when we were diagnosed. And I know we were all diagnosed at a relatively young age. I was 43, Elissa 34, Samantha 40. Can you walk us through what led you to seek answers and what that moment of your diagnosis was like for each one of you? Elissa, feel free to start.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting because I'm, just over 4 years in now, and I feel like every year has been so different. And I kind of in my head, as we get into October, mark it a bit by the Octobers because that wasn't a significant month to me before. And I always knew about breast cancer awareness and supported it, but it didn't affect me in the way that it does now. It's very surface level, which is most and understandable. But with the initial diagnosis, it's funny because I typically don't have a lot of pink. It's just not one of my particular colors. It's my daughter's favorite color, so definitely have more of it since. And it's funny because this is actually the only We Got This logo we've ever done in pink, and it was because it was for Tori Spelling's Booby Bash for her last reality show that we did a few years ago, and so we made Bella Canvas made a donation. We did a bunch of this limited pink stuff, so we might have to recircle back.
Mhm.
But initially, when I was diagnosed, I'm a very like on brand person. Like if you can't tell, I like merch and stuff. And as I got diagnosed, I'm like I like pink now, I guess. Like I'm all pink. And so I remember like, Eric, my husband got me a pink rubber ring as my fingers started to swell. And like I even remember getting because we were doing construction on our kitchen like in the middle of when I got diagnosed. I got like just a tea kettle and I saw it came in pink and I was like, I guess I'm gonna order pink. Like that's my thing now.
Right.
And it's just so funny because it just like it didn't feel like me from the beginning of just that way. And it makes kind of sense looking back because this month, pink is, I think, amazing. Like, what an amazing marketed breast cancer is. Like, no one doesn't know what the pink ribbon is. And that's a big deal because that does help in a lot of ways. And then there's the other side to it where if it's only that, and if people don't actually understand what they're supporting and what they're giving money to, like anything, it can get taken advantage of. And so I feel like each year I kind of re rechange and evolve my relationship with pink.
Mm.
And I think this is the first year that I'm really feeling like I understand all angles of it and I've felt all angles of it. And, being metastatic, we have our own ribbon that is pink, teal, and green, which is, most people would not recognize. But looking at it now, I really think that awareness is important. And I know I also agree with like, we don't just need awareness, we need funding and all that too. But I started to realize coming into this month that I don't think that we have exhausted breast cancer awareness. And I agree with this, and I see it a lot where people are like, we're aware, like breast cancer exists, like stop using us as a marketing tool. And I look at it like, people aren't aware. And I think that's actually why funding isn't spread out where it needs to be within the community. And I think I've felt that more this year than ever because of funding cuts in general with
Right.
cancer and people understanding how big the word cancer is, how big the word breast cancer is. Like all three of us have totally different scenarios and treatments and stuff that we've been on. And I really hope this month, of course, I'm just trying to do all the things, like fundraise for all the things and this and that. But a big thing I'm really trying to focus on is this like idea of this stuff we're unaware of. Like, I didn't know that stage 4, like what metastatic even meant before I had it myself. And how can we expect other people to? I had a call this morning with someone who, male stage 4 breast cancer thriver from Boston. And these things that come up that it's like, yeah, people wouldn't know that. And I don't know, I guess that's my my long-winded way of saying that I think that these types of conversations are so important and finding those gaps in awareness will always exist. And the more attention we can put on them and the more awareness, I really think that that's how we get more funding. And that's how we get people to understand that it's not like so important prevention and mammograms and all these things. But like, it's also like, I never had a mammogram before getting diagnosed. I was 34. I didn't have a family history. I have no genetic mutation. So how can I still be aware and how can people understand what I'm still going through?
All right, stop right there. We're going to go back to the diagnosis in a second because you pivoted to a really, really amazing point. And the point is there's so much power in knowledge and hearing other people's stories. And thank God for podcasts for that. But there are also different companies that are using the pink ribbon to make sales. And a lot of that money is not going to cancer research. And there's also a lot of products that are really terrible for us with the pink ribbon.
Yes.
So it's
Mhm.
also awareness and doing our own research as to what we should be listening to and how we should be supporting the cause. I feel like there's something you want to say, Samantha.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm like, ah, this
I'm
is
ready.
this
She's
is
ready. She's
my
ready.
mission. This is my jam because okay, where do I start? I start with the incredible frustration mixed with some gratitude of the big corporations who put that pink ribbon on their skincare, their makeup, their food product. And they are raising funds and committing to donating funds to different breast cancer research organizations. I've been a longtime ambassador of Susan G. Komen, as well as the American Cancer Society, a huge fan and supporter of We Got This, Elissa's charity. And I'm grateful because we need a lot of money, especially as the government is cutting more funds and financing for research. We need money from big corporations that have deep pockets to do that research. So I'm torn. I'm torn as a thriver. And I used to say only survivor because the metastatic community kind of owns thriver. But after a recurrence, I'm going to say I'm freaking thriving. So, Elissa, is that okay?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I call everyone a thriver. I think however you identify, but that's my preferred term for all of us.
Thank you. So, as a thriver, I am incredibly grateful to the deep pockets of these big corporations for putting money towards research, towards new treatments, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's a bioidentical hormone, natural, whatever, all the different amazing things that are out there. Okay, that's that side. Now I'm going to get PO'd. It angers me to no end that we have so many companies that are perfectly happy, as Elissa said, to slap that, first of all, to slap the pink ribbon on just for the marketing campaign that is October Breast Cancer Awareness Month, to jump on the bandwagon, to make more sales so they can profit. Now, does their profiting allow them to donate more money? Let's hope so. Does it also make their pockets even deeper to maybe actually be the companies that can make change by changing the ingredients in their food, skincare, makeup to allow us to not have more carcinogens and endocrine disruptors in their products? That would be nice. That's where their power should lie. And so, okay, so some of you are like, okay, Samantha, I have no idea what you are even talking about on this rant. So I'm going to back up. Okay. My breast cancer diagnosis, age 40, clean, healthy, fit, cover of lots of fitness magazines, interviews all about what you do to stay so healthy, and bam, blindsided with daughters who were 3 and 6 with a breast cancer diagnosis. Dad had colon cancer. His mom was a breast cancer survivor. Still zero genetic link. Okay. Journalism hat on, deep dive into research. I realize, oh my gosh, and this was something that those who are entrenched, as I now am, in this wellness world totally understand and like, duh, but it was mind-blowing information to me. Only 5 to 10% of breast cancer is genetic. So what gives? Why are 1 in 8 women diagnosed with invasive breast cancer? Why is that diagnosis happening younger and younger and younger? And it's that aha moment of, oh, it's epigenetics, right? This is the study of what and how our environment leads to not just breast cancer, but many different chronic diseases from diabetes, heart disease, etc. So that to me in my research, right after I got through all of my, 3 surgeries back then, I've had 6 total, but 3 surgeries back then in 2014 and recovering, and that empowerment that I learned from the research of 5-10% epigenetics. Wait a second. 1 + 1 = 2. Ding, 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 I can be in more control of my well-being than I might realize, or of my health outcomes, or of my recurrence. Yes, I had a recurrence in 2024. And you're all thinking, well, why the hell did you bother changing your skincare, your makeup, your food, your stress habits, your exercise, and toxic relationships if you still got a recurrence? Okay, that's because where my tumor was right up against my skin. They did a mastectomy, 5% chance of recurrence after mastectomy. My location, and this is what I'm chalking up the local recurrence, it was in the exact same location. We had some of those cells that were stuck in the skin and they decided to proliferate, and there we go. So I started to make all these changes slowly, methodically, small, manageable steps so that it wasn't overwhelming, so that I could make changes. And this is where I get PO'd, because as I've started to whittle away from what types of makeup and skincare and cleaning supplies I'm using in my household to how I'm eating my food and buying my food. And it's a lot different, obviously, going to restaurants, but how can I make those choices, at least in my home, to make sure that I am not buying products that are laden with chemicals and ingredients that are contributing to the problem and thus pink washing. And there you go. That's my rant. Thank you. Thank you very much.
No,
But
it's
at the same time, by the way, I am also helping offer lots of tools to people so that they're like, cool, you gave me all this information. Now what the hell do I do, Samantha? Heck do I do, Samantha?
Yeah.
That's my jam now. That's my goal. That's my mission, is to help empower others and give you the tools to be able to make these changes without the overwhelm paralysis that I was feeling.
I
yes,
love that,
that's
and
go
so
ahead.
I just love the way that you do that because so many people will just tell you everything that's wrong and then leave you with so much research, and it's like, well, if you just go on your own rogue online and try to figure out, I mean, if you followed what every person told you to do to be healthy, you would literally die because you wouldn't be able to eat anything because one person's saying to be a carnivore, person's saying to be a vegan, you know?
Yep.
So I really, I love that you're bringing so much attention to that and following it up with real tangible action items.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm going to kind of speak for you. Let me know if I'm misspeaking, Samantha, but that's kind of where your 10% toxic philosophy came out, was like, you cannot be 100%. Don't aim to be 100%. You are going to drive yourself crazy, and stress is not going to help us, not get cancer or not get a reoccurrence, right? So it's
Yes.
really picking and choosing and being in control of what you're able to be in control of in life. Like
Right,
that.
right, and that's applicable to everything. In the first 10 years after cancer, before my recurrence, I was in that frenzy of get everything toxic out. Add in more stress busting things. Start to meditate, start to breathe, start to and it became somewhat paralyzing in some ways, and it also became so overwhelming that I got fearful, so fearful to eat something, to do that it took my recurrence to have another wake up call to say, okay, cool. The last decade, you've figured out all these things. Now guess what? Now you get to just breathe a little bit. Allow yourself to be 10% toxic. It's kind of flipping that 90-10 rule on its head. Sure, I'm still aiming to be 80 to 90% toxin free in all of these different areas of my life. But look, we know alcohol, very toxic. No amount of alcohol is safe for breast cancer. However, do I have a glass of wine every so often, a couple times a month? I do. Do I have some French fries if I'm out at a restaurant? Guess what? That's my favorite food group. Yeah, they're an entire group. How do you find in your life? And 10% toxic is going to look completely different for each person. So it took my recurrence to have that wake up call to allow myself to live fully, not fearfully. And that's what the 10% toxic method is. And it's this like 3-step easy process: acknowledge, assess, activate. So acknowledge that there is toxicity in our life and kind of get an idea of like where that toxicity is. Then you want to assess what percent toxic am I? When it came pre-cancer to even say stress, you guys, I was 100%, maybe 99%, but still 100% toxic. I was saying yes to everything. It was the peak of my career. I worked hard to get there. I didn't want to say no to anything. I was juggling new motherhood and being a wife and running a house and trying to take every job and activity that came at me. I didn't know the power of no. And I was so overwhelmed, I think, with everything coming at me. So I had zero stress busting techniques or tools, right? Breath work, meditation, mindfulness, outdoor walks, tuning into nature, like all these things that are part of my life now. And I'm still honestly working on that and so on. So you want to assess what percent of toxicity you are in each area. Then
Hold
activate.
on, Samantha. I need to stop you right there because that's making me think back to a couple weeks after my mastectomy. I started Reiki healing.
Ooh.
And I ended up becoming a master after, like it was that empowering for me in healing. And so when I was going through the healing journey, my Reiki master said, "No, I'm no expert. I have just provided Reiki healing to a lot of women in hospitals going through chemo, all breast cancer thrivers. And what I've seen with my own eyes is each woman telling their story, were over giving in many, many, many ways. They were not focusing on themselves. They were saying yes to everything to please other people, whatever it is. Yes, 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 yes to their families and not so much to themselves. So I just want to take a beat for everyone to just kind of think about their current lifestyle, right? And where they can start making like small, tangible changes. I'm still working on that because I was that woman too. And I just want to say that. And not to cut you off, Samantha, but I kind of want to take like a second for us to maybe take a couple deep breaths and
Mm.
kind of go back in time to when we were first diagnosed. Kind of sit into that for a second. Um, and Elissa, I'd like to start with you as to how you found it, kind of going back to your diagnosis, especially as a very young mom.
Mhm.
Kind of go back to that and share your story.
Yeah, thanks. We always need to someone like Stacey to bring us centered again. um, so when I was diagnosed, it was after like right before Ellie's first birthday, and I had a baby in July of 2020, and obviously that came with a lot of different scenarios. And when I started getting out again, I was playing tennis a lot, because being outdoors and that, and I started like 20, 30 minutes into just being on the court, my feet would feel like they were gonna, like, explode out of my shoes. They would get really swollen and numb, and so, I played sports and all this stuff, and, like, maybe it's plantar fasciitis, like, really extreme, and I started, going to physical therapy, all this stuff. Nothing would help it, and it was, like, just this weird unexplained thing, and so I was like, "Well, I'm gonna take the time now to get everything checked." And so I did. I went to, like, every doctor, I went to a rheumatologist, like, "What's going on?" And again, it's my feet, like, it's not my boobs weren't numb, like, there was nothing there. And it's kinda on and off, just feeling off, and, on one hand, feeling kinda dismissed because the answer always because everything looked normal, like, my blood tests, all the things look normal. It's like, you had a baby and your body is still rebounding and all this kind of stuff. And I even had a breast exam 2 months before my diagnosis. And I don't blame it was my primary care doctor at the time. And I don't think that he did anything wrong. Now knowing that, like, when I know that there's a tumor in my breast, which happens, throughout the years of being metastatic, there's some times in the month where, like, you don't really feel it, and sometimes that it's very obvious, and I just think that it was one of those times where, like, I last year had a fist-sized tumor removed, and there were certain times where I knew it was there, and I, like, couldn't find it, well, before I had it removed, and so it all that to say that luckily, my husband and I have a great relationship, and he jokingly, when I was, like, getting ready one morning in the closet, came in and, like, caught the feel as I was changing. And he paused for a second and was like, "What was that?" And, like, I felt it, and I was like, "I don't know." And then he immediately, like, felt bad. He was like, "Oh, no, no, I'm sure it's nothing," you know? And I wasn't worried at all. It felt very much like a clogged milk duct, which I'm kinda glad in hindsight that breastfeeding was so hard for me. It also kind of explained it, like a lot of nipple inverting and things like that, that kinda makes sense now. Um, but I had already been so proactive about going to the doctors that I immediately messaged and, got in to have a breast exam, not worried at all. Like, I wasn't worried until I got the actual call. I went in, they felt a lump in my armpit too, had no idea what that meant, like, still not worried. Got my first mammogram, ultrasound, and then did the biopsies. And it was when I got the phone call after I remember I was because my former life is in financial services and mainly working with corporate retirement plans, and I'm in, like, my work dress, getting ready in my bathroom, putting on makeup for, like, a work lunch or something, and I got the phone call, and I knew it was coming, like, I had my whole day planned out because I didn't think I had cancer. And when I got it and the way they worded it and it being the radiologist who did my biopsies wasn't in that day, and she had told me in advance that someone else might have to call, you know, it was just some random guy I'd never talked to or met before, and he just kind of read it off like, "I'm calling about your biopsy results, and unfortunately, both of the lumps are malignant." And I was like, "Are you telling me right now that I have breast cancer?" And he was like, "Unfortunately, yes." And it was just so it wasn't I don't even know, like, it's like how I don't even know how to explain it now. I didn't know how to react because in my head, I'm like, 1, I really didn't think that was happening. And then once I took a second and, you know, then my mom was visiting, so I then it, like, went over Eric was on a work call, so I went and told my mom first and then to Eric and, like, wrapping my head around it, but then I'm like, you know, I'm a badass. I'm a fighter. Like, just do what you gotta do. Like, we're gonna remove my breasts. It's gonna be really tough and all that. But I know so many people have gone through it and support, and like, we're gonna do this. And this was before I knew it was metastatic. Like, you know, I knew it had already spread to my lymph nodes, but luckily I did have a PET scan, and that's when Eric and and I've told this story a lot, and Eric's a really great sport about it. I write about it in my book too, but it was just so memorable sitting in the office when I thought we were talking about it was with a surgeon and talking about surgery, and my PET scan had come back and she pulled it up, and you see the visual lights and the areas I knew, and then my liver was had more cancer than my breast. And never understood, like, that it's not liver cancer, it's breast cancer, and it can be, you know, you biopsy and make sure, but, like, I didn't know that breast cancer could spread to your brain or these things, and so we're seeing the screen, and she's, like, trying to tell me that I have stage 4 cancer, and I'm trying to figure out, like, am I dying? And Eric was just, like, turned white and, like, hyperventilating. They brought in, like, a paper bag for him, like, it was just so confusing. And it was after that and I'm kinda glad that that extreme reaction happened early on with Eric, and I'm a little, like, uh, I kinda, like, black out in the zone, you know, I just was asking questions, trying to figure out, you know, and we came home that day and we kinda you know, I kinda said to Eric, like, "We need to figure out, like, how you're gonna have people to talk to about this other than me." You know, like, we're a team, and there's a lot of aspects of this that, like, we're in it together, but there's also things that, like, I can't take on and you shouldn't have to take on for me, you know, and we need that balance, and ever since, it really was like we set the stage from day 1, but, I mean, I've been learning so much about breast cancer since, and there's still plenty that I don't know. And that's 4 years of having it and being in treatment and getting infusions every 3 weeks indefinitely. And so, again, back to like what I kind of said earlier is like, you know, some people we can blame, like the corporations who just throw pink on stuff or people who are trying to exploit it. But like, how can we blame the average person who just wants to support or maybe lost one, like, how can we blame them for not being aware of everything? Because 'Cause I'm still not aware of everything, and I think I'm as, like, close to a medical degree in breast cancer as a non-doctor could get. So that
Yeah.
was really the full intro, of where we're at.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've heard your story so many times, and every time I get something else out of it. And then I think about your husband. We should have like a whole episode on your husband too.
I just recorded an episode with
Oh,
him,
good. I can't wait to
but
listen to
but
it.
but that would be so fun someone else doing it,
I
and
totally would. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, it's such, yes, I
He
think
always talks about with me that actually would be, like, so cool to listen to something that I didn't hear on the spot.
Right.
well, I
It
mean, that shows so much about who you are as a person too, is like you realized you just got this heavy diagnosis, but you looked at your partner and you're like, you are gonna need support too, other than me. And I just love you for that. That was really,
Oh,
really
thank
beautiful and I
you.
appreciate it. And Samantha, I've heard your story and I just love hearing yours too. Would you like to share how you got your diagnosis?
Yeah, I will. I wanna comment on what Alyssa said about that because, the fact that you in the midst of a stage 4 diagnosis, and it doesn't matter, of course, what stage a diagnosis is blindsiding, but obviously you'd had a 1-year-old, here you are, and the cancer's in your liver, the cancer is in it's overwhelming. And the fact that you had, I mean, I just applaud you. You had the self-awareness to be able to say, "Okay, that's me, but honey, I need to make sure you have support." Because I go back to my whole time through my surgeries and that whole first year, and I needed Michael to be there, but I don't think, and I did acknowledge that it was a lot as a caregiver, and I think I realized it much more after the fact
Mm.
because as women, we don't wanna be the patients, we're used to taking care of everyone else, so I think I was more self-conscious about, "Oh, okay, I don't wanna overburden my husband, or my mom who's, staying with me, or my sister who, whoever's flying in to stay. I don't wanna call them upstairs and have them walk the stairs too many times." So I think that was more my awareness, but my awareness wasn't what you're saying, and I think in terms of an interview for husbands or caregivers is so helpful because they have their own journey as we're all going through this. And we could probably do an entire you could probably, Stacey, do an episode with all 3 husbands
Right.
and have
Yeah,
different stories
yeah.
and perspectives for each. But I think it would be very helpful for listeners because it took, and hopefully he's okay that I'm sharing this. I remember he had like this, it was like some random guy that he was talking to. That he wasn't one of like his best friend from high school from the time he was in kindergarten or anything. It was almost like a life coachy kind of person that had maybe come into his world through business. And I remember like overhearing him by the time I could go back downstairs talking to this guy. And I was like, because especially I was very protective of what information was out there, how that information got out there, especially having been on TV and in this sort of like public sort of place. I was careful to how I was going to share that narrative, but it was my narrative to share. It's my story, my cancer. I get to tell you. I get to tell who I want, when I want. I get to tell you when you get to tell. Like it was a weird. I don't know. I felt almost possessive over my. Is it weird? I felt almost possessive, and I'm
No, I don't
witnessing
think that's weird
it.
at
Like
all.
we're talking about. I felt possessive over my cancer and my story, and it's my story to tell who, when, where, how. So my first reaction when I realized he was talking to not, I probably would have been fine had he told his BFFs, since kinder, but it was some stranger
Mm.
talking to this stranger about my intimate story. And my first reaction was anger. I was like, how dare you? I mean, I don't think I was like, how dare you? But in my mind, I was like, how dare you go and tell somebody? All of a sudden, I got some old lady voice. I don't know where that came from. But I remember being like, I was just angry. I was just PO'd. And it took a realization and finally us having a conversation about it, which of course is like, if you guys are listening or you're like off washing dishes right now, come back into the conversation for 1 second. Awareness of conversation and open communication is essential when you're going through a diagnosis or helping the person who's going through it as the caregiver. So I was so happy we finally had that conversation and open communication. And I was like, I'm feeling angry right now that you're sharing. And he had the wherewithal to be like, honey, I love you. For you, I have to be your rock. I can't let you see me kind of, he didn't say cry in a corner, but that's kind of what he meant. Cry in a corner,
Mm.
be scared. I've got 2 little ones at home and I don't know what the hell to do with girls. I'm a man who had played sports and manly things that were not, that sports aren't manly things. I've got athletes as my female daughter, whatever. But like he's a man's man. He's a boy's boy.
Yeah,
He was on the
yeah.
basketball team and captain the team and whatever. So he's like, I don't know what to do with little girls. You can't not be around. And I'm freaking out over here, but I have to be a rock for you. I need to go talk to somebody who has no skin in the game, not just talk to my best friend who has skin in the game because he cares about us on a personal level. I need to talk to someone who has no skin in the game. And I realize, of course, now 11 years after my initial diagnosis, this guy, whatever his name was a passing person that served a purpose. I don't think he talked to him or kept up with him after when he needed him. And the
Mm.
fact, Alyssa, that you gave Eric that just permission right, like right there. I wish I had done that. I can't go back, but I realize now how important that is. So sorry, that was a total tangent, but I
Well, one
wanted
thing
to
just to
share.
make you feel better about that is it's so interesting because it's kind of like opposite reactions, but at the same time, I also felt guilty that I couldn't be that person, I knew where it started and ended. So it's kind of it's an impossible thing to like, which makes sense or not. I think we all end up coming to either that agreement or not, and obviously I'm very fortunate that that was the way Eric handled this. But yeah, it's confusing. And I think we all react the way our instincts know, and it makes sense.
And Stacey, for you too, like, how did you navigate that? Because that's a good point, Alyssa, too. I also, at the same time, too, I'm like, why aren't you talking to me? But he's like, I can't talk to you. I have to be your rock. Like, you need to get through this and beyond this. What about for you, Stacey?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Because my diagnosis to meeting with my surgeon was a 24-hour time frame. Things happened really, really fast once I was diagnosed. And I'll go over like how I was diagnosed because I had something very similar with Elissa, and I think with you too, Samantha, where I had to advocate for more testing because my mammogram came back clear, even though my husband did find a lump. And I
Uh,
knew something was there. And they're like, oh, you're good. And I'm like, no, I'm not good. I had a feeling I had cancer. I had a feeling. Even when my biopsy came back with a very slight chance of malignancy, I knew. And I wasn't getting the call from the radiologist because he went out of town. And so when he came back, I called and I was like, I need to know what's going on. They're like, you have cancer. Like, it was like,
that's
it,
crazy that they made you wait.
it was wild. But when I found out I had cancer, I was in my surgeon's office the following day with here's your A, B, and C choices. And my sister, God bless her, picked me up for my appointment. I don't even know if we said hello or like hugged. She had a meditation going in the car. She knows me. Like that
Oh,
centers me. I got in. I closed my eyes. When I opened my eyes, we were at my appointment and my mind couldn't have been more clear. So I knew what I wanted to do when I left that doctor's appointment. I knew I wanted a double mastectomy because in my imaging, even though they found one malignant tumor, they had two on the right that they said were benign. Well, I didn't feel like they were. And when all of my pathology came back, they were already precancerous. So this is also a lesson in listening to your intuition and listening to your body.
mm.
So when I
Wait,
was
wait,
with
sorry,
my
wait. I want a quick question, an interjection for those who are listening who might not be like, what is precancers? Meaning they were DCIS, they were stage 0, contained within the duct, didn't know how to get out yet.
They were so he actually didn't tell me. He said they were on their way to becoming
What the hell
cancerous.
does that mean? I mean,
I
you're either
don't
DCIS or
know.
you're 0. I mean, you're
Yeah,
not even
he
0.
never
Like,
told me. He just said, thank God you listened to your body.
I don't even know what that means. I'm
I
assuming
don't know what
it had
that
to be
means
stage 0. Like, I mean,
either.
stage 0 for some in the especially alternative functional cancer, the oncology world, believe that stage 0 isn't even cancer
I know
yet.
that's a whole
It is
nother
on its way to.
conversation.
So that's why I
Yes.
would think that's what they
I don't know.
mean.
You know what? I'll have to get back to you on
Do
that.
I
There's
now I
gotta
need that
be,
answer.
yes, yes.
For you, I need that answer.
So when I was with my sister doing all of my pre-op, it happened so quickly within the appointment. And I said, text mom and dad and Joe. I want everyone at my table where I'm at right now. When we come home, I want to let everyone know what I decided and I want their blessing type of a thing. And so I didn't think originally about telling Joe, you need to think about finding support. And I did know that he lost his mom at age 43, which was the same age I was, not to breast cancer, but to something else. So there was stuff there. One of my best male friend, Brian, came to the rescue without me asking because I was insanely close to his mother. And this is my best friend for 30 plus years. His mother passed away in her 40s with ovarian cancer. And I was there I was there for all of it. And he just knew, being the son of someone that had cancer, what to do. And he called Joe and he said, I will be with you the whole time Stacey is having her surgery, and I will be with you when the doctors call. And he ended up staying with Joe the whole day.
So important. That's amazing that he had
That's
that
amazing.
intuition.
Yes. And so that that was my story of that part of it. But let's get back to you, Samantha. I'd love to hear more about how you came to your diagnosis, because I do remember for your story, the mammogram didn't pick it up either.
Yeah, I feel like we all have a lot of overlap, and of course, every cancer story is so unique. I also had a clear mammogram. I was turning 40. I thought, oh, okay, dad had colon cancer, died at 50. His mom was 90, lived to 95, but a breast cancer survivor. I know what cancer is. I hear about this mammogram thing. I should get one. So I was a month shy of turning 40, got the mammogram, came back clear 11 days, and I expected it to be, by the way. 11 days later, I found the lump. And I was just changing after an exercise. You know how tight those sports bras are, and I took it off, and I'm like doing I call it the soft tissue soft shoe, like a little to the left, a little to the right, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So I'm doing that whole rotating the breast thing, and
I
I'm
feel so
grateful.
seen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not alone. Well, and I have to say, breastfeeding really put me in touch with my boobies more than I realized, and so I really knew them, and I was like, this lump wasn't there like yesterday. Now, obviously, it was. I just somehow didn't know it, but it was also clearly there 11 days ago when I had the clear mammogram. I didn't stick my head in the sand, but I also wasn't like Elissa. I didn't think I had cancer. Like through this whole journey of just like you, like seeing 20 different doctors, not that many, but I did not think it was cancer, but I was like, I'm just going to call the OBGYN. That's who always, did my breast check at the clinical exam. She felt was like, it's nothing. You're turning 40. It's probably glandular. Welcome to 40. That's what you get. You get lumpy breasts. Boobs like to make lumps. That's what you got. Okay, fine. Back to blah, blah, blah. A month later, still there. Pesky little lumps, like kind of getting louder voice in my ear going, "Ooh, maybe just maybe I need a second opinion, but not cancer, right? Clear mammogram. OBGYN said it's not cancer too. So I saw my internist because I don't know. I guess that's the only doctor I kind of knew. Went to my internist, quick clinical exam, same thing. It's nothing, but we'll keep an eye on it if you're worried. I'm not worried, but if you're worried, okay, fine. So now, fast forward another 2 months. Now it's been 4 months since I found the lump. And my pesky little inner voice is getting super duper loud and it is screaming at me. But all along, my mom, bless, I feel so grateful to have her in my life, even having lost my dad. And we were so close. I'm so grateful to have my mom in my life. And she remarried to someone who'd gone all the way through school with both my mom and dad, and he was a retired surgeon, and he was in her ear, so she was in my ear, and it's like, check it out, check it out, check it out. But we're the ones who have to take action. We're the ones who have to have agency over our path. And it didn't matter how many times she was asking me, is that lump still there? In my brain, it was like, well, I had a clear mammogram. 2 doctors told me it was fine. Mom, you don't know what you're talking about. But it took that inner voice finally screaming to say, just go to someone who looks at breasts every day, as their specialty, because that's who you need to see. Well, it turns out the only type of doctor who looks at breasts every day is a breast oncologist. So here I was at a breast center going like, I don't have cancer. Why am I in a room that says, breast cancer on the door? And I'm flipping through this magazine in the waiting room, and you guys will see the irony in this. And it was probably on People Magazine, Us Weekly, whatever it was. I turned to a page that was like, what to do? 10 things to do if you're diagnosed with breast cancer. You know why? Because no, it wasn't even October. It was probably an old October issue, right? And I'm like, not me. I don't have cancer. I flipped right past that. And I get to the specialist, and the oncologist is like, okay, Samantha, you're not crazy. There is, I'm seeing what you're seeing, but this ultrasound doesn't show that it would be cancerous. Let's do a needle biopsy. We did the needle biopsy. She says, okay, now listen, in a week, I'm going to have results. I want you to bring your husband or another supporter with you. Good news, bad news. If it's good news, you'll go out, have an enjoyable lunch, and you guys got a nice lunch date out of it. If it's the alternative, you have a support system here. I'm thinking, okay, fine, but I don't have cancer, so it's fine. And guess what? Went to that appointment, and it was the good news. You don't have cancer. I don't know what it is, though. So let's just take it out. So I left there going, all right, I guess I'm going to have surgery. I've never been cut into.
Oh.
I delivered vaginally, so I've literally never been cut into before. Well, okay, I had an episiotomy, but beyond that, that was a sewing. That was a rip. That doesn't count. Oh, ladies, we're so lucky. So my husband and I go have a wonderful lunch at our favorite little spot. I know I'm going to go back in for a lumpectomy to remove this whatever, nothing lump. I go to that surgery a week later. I go to the follow-up appointment just to, make sure that the incision is healing well and then she was going to share the final pathology. And I told my husband literally, I'm like, honey, it's a beautiful day. We've got somebody babysitting the kids. Go golfing. Like, seriously, go. I don't need you to come with me. And then I sat there for 2 hours in this dark basement at the hospital, which is where the oncology department was. And she walks in, the oncologist. She's just got that look. And she doesn't even say like, Samantha, you have cancer. Let's have a conversation. It was like, hi, okay, so ductal carcinoma in situ. And she's starting to like draw, and it's invasive. And she's drawing like circles, like a big circle, which is to represent the breast, and the little dots to show where the cancer is, and the dots to show how it got outside the duct. And my head is swimming. And I'm like, all I'm hearing is carcinoma. That means cancer. She's not saying cancer. I know that means cancer. I've watched enough TV shows and, enough movies. Just like the overwhelm and the anxiety. And I never, by the way, I'm a happy-go-lucky person. I never had anxiousness. I never had anxiety. I never had feelings of overwhelm. Wow. I could literally feel the inside of my body from shoulders all the way down, and just talking about it again. And I'm sure for you both as well, like, whoo, those feelings, they're right there. They're just right under the surface. So I'm feeling just literally that it's like a vibration, and it's probably what the adrenaline is, right? And the fear as it's coursing through your body. It was so overwhelming. And I got home. Well, I didn't go home. I went to meet my dad. Michael was back from golf, and the kids were home with the babysitter. And I said, I'm thinking, I can't go home. I can't go home and face my sweet little girls who just want mommy to come home and play. How am I going to put on a brave face? So I told him to meet me at a nearby park. I didn't have tennis shoes. I grabbed my tennis shoes, meet me at the park. There's a golf course, and we could walk around it and just talk and be outside. And that's where we met. And that's where, okay. So we both pull into the parking lot, and I didn't know if I was even going to make it home because they kept texting saying like, is everything okay? What's going on? And finally, in all caps, he just wrote, "Are you okay?" And I couldn't answer him. And I had no cell signal in this basement, this like cellar. Like, thanks. It already sucks that we have cancer. You got to put us in a cellar. No light. I get up to the hospital valet because that's how you have to park there. I wasn't trying to be fancy. And I mean, they do it to be nice, right? Because you're like going in for treatments and stuff. So I'm waiting for the valet, and I just have enough in me to text back. Oh, no. I didn't text back. I call, and I have it just in me to say, here's voice. I say, no, I am not okay. I need you to grab my tennis shoes. I need you to meet me at the park. And I had to just clear my head to get down the most horrible freeway in Los Angeles, the 405, to drive back to where I lived, hoping that I didn't swerve off the road or black out or something from the overwhelm. I pull up at the park, and I'm in a parking spot, and I see him pull up, and he parks next to me. It's just so clear. I get out of the car, and I walk to the front of the car around my car, and he walks, and we meet in the front of my car. And I now understand why. Oh, shit. I understand why people in movies crumble to the ground when something like this is being shared, or they hear the news that someone has died or someone has a diagnosis of cancer. Because he took me in his arms, and I just crumbled. My legs gave way, and there I am in a puddle on the ground as he's holding me up. And it doesn't matter that I'm, thank God, freaking 11 years out. And yes, I had a recurrence last year, but I have to count from that day one because I'm still here. And my girls, I just got to celebrate my oldest daughter's 18th birthday. But it's here. It's so visceral once you get a diagnosis like that. And you have to look at your mortality. And it's crazy as shit, and I'm really sorry I lost my shit just now. Okay,
Don't be.
I'm okay.
Oh, yeah, no apologies here.
You know, and then I look at Alyssa and I'm like, "Frick, you are freaking amazing," you know? I have my friends who are stage 4 thrivers, and it is a constant in the in treatments, in and out of the hospital, in different scans, and I'm grateful for every day, and I'm grateful for the incredible breasty community like you girls. So there we go.
Oh,
Absolutely,
Okay,
Samantha.
love you.
okay. Love you
I
guys.
wanna just say, in that too, because that happens a lot where earlier stage cancer, things like that, and people be like, "Well, it's, like, not as bad as yours though," and all that. You know,
Ooh,
I
30 seconds.
think that this idea of imposter syndrome from
Mm,
cancer just needs to be eliminated. It's interesting actually. One of my friends, who's triple negative, stage 3, she's not in treatment anymore. She's not metastatic. And early on, we were talking and she's like, there's a part of me that, like, obviously I don't want to be in treatment, but I feel like I don't get scanned as regularly. I don't have something regularly that I'm doing. And you're always living knowing that you had cancer, you know? And I think that's something that really goes overlooked, not just in October, just like in life. Like, we are badasses. Think about the amount of things that we've brought up that have nothing to do with cancer that are
right,
so difficult to being
right.
a woman.
Is that
Oh,
Jen you're talking about? The stage that's
No, it's
triple negative?
actually Jen is metastatic. It's
She
actually a friend of
is?
mine from
She's
Boston.
triple negative too, I didn't realize.
Yeah, yeah. And Jen's oncologist is Dr. Slayman, who invented Herceptin.
And he wrote the
Uh,
foreword to
wow.
my book. He's
oh my
my
Oh,
god,
he's
I
my
didn't
medical
realize it.
oncologist as well. He's my quarterback because he's not in clinic very often. Um,
Mhm.
but so I have a separate I like, we have our teams, right? So I have 2 medical oncologists, but he's my call my quarterback.
Oh, I didn't realize you were at UCLA.
I am but yes, surgery at Cedars, but ongoing care. Well, one is affiliated with Cedars and the other one's at UCLA. Yeah. They're all
Yeah.
we're lucky to be in LA, or, if you're lucky to be in a big city where you have so many we have City of Hope not too far away. We have St. John's is also I mean, there's so many great options here, and I think for women who are in a city where they have to travel, they're in an oncology desert essentially where they don't have lots of options. I think it is really hard. And that's where we need even more amazing, like whether it's We Got This, where you can have extra support and donate and other wonderful modalities that allow people to have the treatment no matter where they are, but that ongoing care while they're where they are. It's
right.
hard. So I'm grateful to be in LA because of that. It's honestly one of the reasons where when there are days I'm like, I gotta get out of here. I'm like, nope, I had cancer. I'm not leaving. I had too many doctors here.
Yeah.
We're so
Yeah.
blessed. We're so blessed to live where we are. But, just to go back to both of what you guys were saying about, we've all had really hard, dark times, and we're still having dark times.
Mhm.
And I know for you personally, Alyssa, you're going through a very scary time right now where you're leaving a treatment plan that's been working for you to try something else. Would you like to go in a little bit about that very briefly and then also talk about in those scary times, in those scary moments, and Samantha, for reoccurrence, for whatever it is, what helps pull you out
Mm.
of those terrifying moments?
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say is, like, the words like, treatment working or beating cancer, like, those take on new meaning depending on your situation. And
Right.
I learned after that first year, because it was a year in that I ended up having a recurrence in my breast and a couple tumors in my brain. And the chemo I was on was so brutal and it worked. I mean, unbelievable. It got rid of my tumors within a few months. It was like really wild. I just had a brain MRI yesterday, the day before, and everything is still really good 3 years later. But the chemo itself, while it worked on the cancer, it destroyed my quality of life, and it was the most depressed I've ever been. And I didn't want to hurt myself, but I really didn't want to keep living like that. Like, it was too hard to, like, exist. And when I spoke up, more because I was so afraid, like you mentioned, Stacey, of like, you know, I look at it like a cat with 8 lives, and now it's 8 plus. There's definitely, more and more things coming out and all of that, but deciding to leave something that's working is really scary, and, you feel a lot of things because this is stuff that, like, I'm so lucky. I mean, the life expectancy for metastatic breast cancer is, like, 12 to 18 months, like, not that long ago, you know? And the treatment wasn't working. My oncologist said, like, "It's working on the cancer, but, like, you have no quality of life, so that's the other half, so it's not working, like, let's switch." And I've really kept that in my mind, and that's why I always advocate that your care team is by far the most important thing, which I think piggybacks on what we were just saying. But currently, I'm on a chemo that's not the worst, not the best. But yeah, it was causing me to get really anemic, and my hemoglobin and blood counts getting low because I, like, wasn't clotting well, so I get a lot of nosebleeds and all that. And so we kinda talked, with my oncologist and we were like, "Well, if I got, like, in an accident or something else, because she explored more of, like, other oncology friends in if their patients experienced the same thing on Kadcyla, which was the drug I was on, and others had said it, and so we're like, "Well, I can't, like, just go around, like, if I get in an accident, I might not have my blood clot." Like, I had a scab that I picked up here, and I had to go to the ER and get it stitched because it bled for 3.5 hours. So, luckily, and I think I have a different perspective. Like I said, each year it's like you grow in different ways. It's like on one hand, it's really scary right now because I'm making a change and I'm taking a risk. And the alternative of the next layer of standard of care would be going back on Enhertu, which is the one that made me not feel like I could exist. But a lot has advanced since then. If that was a few years ago now, there's way more protocol and anti-nausea IV. Like, my oncologist said, like, it was like savage what I did, like that they would never do that now, like not doing certain meds. But the clinical trial actually combines Herceptin with a new pill that's like an oral targeted therapy, and I'll get scanned a lot, like every 6 weeks initially to make sure, and that's what gives me a lot of comfort in that. It's like, if it's not working, we'll know, like,
Right.
very quickly. Because where I am HER2 positive, it's so fast growing that, it would grow back, like, within that length of time probably. But I'm also feeling, like, really excited about this idea that, like, what if it works? Like, what
Mm.
if I get to be on this, like, I mean, to be on Herceptin and Perjeta, like, initially was, don't get me wrong, I mean, I know people have been on it, like, 10 plus years, which is amazing. It still has side effects, but relative, I mean, wow, like, it would be a dream for me. So I'm both anxious and scared, but I'm excited. I'm going through so many scans this next week and a half. And something that I do, which I think you guys could probably relate to, is like doing content like this, like conversations and podcasts. And that the other day at my brain MRI, I did that like trend of like I was throwing a fit to go to my MRI and then this is my fit. So like I've been having fun as I'm like, oh, I have to have an echocardiogram later today. Like I've already mapped out like, what I want to do. And those types of things distract me because then I'm focused on all the people who love and support me. It's like I get to post something and I get to see Stacey's comments and Samantha's comments and like it's fun and we can relate and all this stuff. But yeah, so I made that longer than you asked me to. But in general, I'm nervous and also excited. And it's also like we're in, like people say, the worst club with the best members. And there's a lot of silver linings that I think are pretty amazing as it goes.
I couldn't agree more with that, and thank you for sharing with that. And I too, like when I look back, and there was one time I was in the ER with a complication from my surgery, and my cousin was holding my hand saying, "Stacy, go to your happy place." My happy place was surrounded by all the people that were supporting me. And I think there's something so powerful to that. And there are so many silver linings. And to be brutally honest, I think we need a part two at some point because I
I
have a
know, we're
million
hitting an hour.
questions. I'm like, oh, we're already at an hour. We're gonna have to like wrap it up,
Maybe
unfortunately.
we
The
do. We should
five-part
do.
mini series of
Well,
Stacey,
here's
Alyssa,
what
and Samantha.
Here's what I would propose. I
Okay.
think we should do 3 parts, and I think we should do the other 2 parts on Samantha's podcast and my podcast, and then we could all collaborate.
Oh, that's
I
such a good
think
idea.
that would be amazing. I think that would be so
And
great.
you can cut that out if you don't wanna do that.
I'm game for it. I love it. Before we wrap up, though, is there a surprising lesson that breast cancer taught you, something you never expected and that you're really grateful for now?
For me, the surprising lesson was just how much more power we have over our health outcomes to a greater level than we realize through our choices and our habits.
Love that,
Beautiful.
and for me, I feel like I'm just an amplified version of who I've always been and less apologetic about it, and I feel like I really go towards I don't live like I'm dying anymore. I kinda reverse that to saying living like I'm alive,
Mm.
and I really prioritize living and doing the things, and I really like that and I always did stuff, but, like, I don't let things go. Like, if there's an opportunity to visit my friend from college because 'cause I'm gonna be, in the area but further away, like, normally I'd be like, "Oh, I'll catch you next time," or saying it's like, "No, I'm gonna catch you this time." And
Yes.
that type of living, I just think everyone should be doing, cancer's not a prerequisite to any of that.
I'm so
I
glad you said
couldn't.
that too, because that addendum, I second that. And life has now become more about experiences than things. I've also had to go through death and family where we're cleaning out closets and everything that they ever held on to. And I'm realizing, and yes, I have closets full of everything I've ever held on to, but going forward, I'd like, all right, what can I do to have experiences? My teenagers, we're looking at next fall already. My oldest is going to be out of the house. Like I'm at that, like, hold on to that little Ellie, a beautiful, I mean, you guys, Stacey, hold on to your kids, like, hold on the longest you possibly can because and even though they get to teenagers and they want nothing to do with you, um, wherever you can create those moments of experience. And the other part of it is, and this isn't even cancer related, but it's like more like the menopausal aging body thing. I am realizing like I really want to explore and see the world more. I want to hike the Alps. I want to do all these things. And if I'm always waiting till the opportune time, like I know right now my body is feeling, there's issues, but overall pretty good. And it's not going to get easier. It's only going to get harder the older we get. So do it now.
I agree. Do it now. I so appreciate you both for being here. And I know all of the beautiful listeners out there are going to want to help spread awareness. And I'd like for us all to kind of, guide them and how they can support everything. So I will say my spiel. Donate to We Got This.
Thank you.
.org, or Susan G. Komen. They've got a walk coming up the very end of October as well. Read Samantha and Elissa's books. You're Healthy is Healthy. We Got This. They both are phenomenal. Share this episode with your friends, with your community. Follow us on social media. Elissa, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find me, Elissa Kalver, and you can find We Got This org across platforms. And for podcasts, Live Like It Matters is what I just started doing, and this stuff's too fun to, like, not keep having just so many fun conversations.
Couldn't agree more. Samantha, what about you?
At Samantha Harris TV, like television on Instagram and Facebook. So at Samantha Harris TV and all of my links and all of my fun stuff and my vetted clean beauty guide, everything is there. And yeah. And then the podcast. Oh yeah. The podcast is also Your Healthiest Healthy and it's wherever you listen. So like and subscribe, please, please.
Beautiful. Well, I have so much love and appreciation for you both. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Mwah. Mwah.